What's up, everybody? You're listening to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast with your boys, Matt Wolf and Joe Fier. Check it.
Ready to go, Matt.
Oh, I already hit record.
Oh, ready to go still, Matt.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Welcome back to the Hustle and Flowchart podcast.
Welcome. My name is Joe Fier.
And I'm Matt Wolf.
I just felt like the
And you're listening to
the
Hustle and Flowchart podcast. I think we're both trying to decide whether we're going to add the word podcast at the end or not.
Was it the full and or the ampersand? And
you know, that has actually kind of turned into a problem for our business a little bit.
A little bit.
Is that I think we called it Hustle and Flowchart with the ampersand as the and. And sometimes if you try to type Hustle and Flowchart with the whole word and on some of the podcast players, our show doesn't show up, which is kind of annoying.
I don't know how to fix that.
I don't either, because it's kind of like too ingrained to go and change names now, you know?
Yeah, maybe there's a way to change the thing from the ampersand to the and, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll figure something
out.
In
them distribution platforms in the podcasting space.
Yeah. What I actually used to do is I used to tell people, back when I had the Authority Insider podcast, to just go to mattspodcast.com. Then there was no question. You go to mattspodcast.com and I think there was like a page that's like listen on iTunes, listen on Spotify, and then just click on whatever player they want to listen on.
Yeah.
But that gave me like one place to send I think if you go to mattspodcast.com right now, I think it redirects to Hustle and Flowchart.
Nice. Perfect. So that accomplishes it.
But we could always do an easy link like that or something.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, there's still that show name that we battle with, though.
Yeah. Well,
it's all good.
That's a problem that we could probably figure out while not recording a podcast.
Exactly. It's probably not the time and place right now.
Well, speaking of this podcast, our guest today is me and Joe. We're going to have another one of our therapy sessions.
Therapy.
World famous.
We got the sofa out. We're laid out. We're in therapy zone. Matt looks very weirded out now.
I just look confused because I was looking for the couch.
Come on. Roll with me.
The couch
Imagination, my friend.
The couch is in our mind.
The therapy couch. And yes, the notebook is out.
I do have my notebook. I am analyzing Joe right now.
Always.
No, but before we get into any sort of meat or content or the topics of the day that we're going to talk about, before we do, I want to tell you we are taking notes on this episode as well, even though we don't have a special guest with us today, and this is just Joe and I letting you into our little world.
We're not special.
We're special, and we're taking notes so you can read about our specialness.
Damn right.
hustleandflowchart.com/comp. You can go there, give us your email address, and we'll email you the notes for this episode. Also, you can text the word comp to 38470. That's COMP, short for companion.
38470.
Comp.
Yeah. So text comp to that.
So hustleandflowchart.com/comp or 38470 comp.
That was like subliminally combined at the same time, both call to action in different places. So whatever resonates best.
You know what I could do with this audio? I can we can mess with like the thing. So if somebody's listening to it in headphones, like they hear me on the left channel and you on the right channel.
Ooh.
So we should both say like the number, like 38470 comp at the same time. And then when I go and edit it, I'll make you in one ear and me on the other.
Ooh.
And just mess with people's heads.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
So 1, 2, 3. 38470 comp.
That was weird.
So did you like that little weirdness in your ears? Most people probably can't tell because they're listening in their car or something.
Yeah, they're like, you guys are just weird.
Yeah, we're just being nerds. But you know, little known fact about our podcast: when we do these therapy sessions and we're not interviewing a guest, I do the editing on them.
Yeah, so you can nerd out.
So I nerd out
on this thing.
That's why when we do therapy sessions, every once in a while, there's like a little like mini clip from like the episode that rolls before our intro, and like I start to like you'll hear little experimental things on the therapy sessions. It's because I get in and I nerd out in the audio editor.
Can't help but not screw around when your hands are in the mix of things. That's the thing.
This is the reason I don't edit most of them.
Exactly. This is why none of us should be editing anything because I mean I'm like that with graphics and videos and stuff like that, where Matt he's like that with the tech and with this.
Yeah.
And
that's why I only edit one episode a month.
Right.
Is I still get to like get my fix of like editing something, but by the time I'm done editing these episodes, I'm like, I'm good for a month. I don't need to edit anymore.
That's why we have, this is why we have a great team to help us out, because we would never get anything done.
Yeah. Well, so just a little BTS, that stands for behind the scenes. A little bit of a BTS.
That's good.
With these episodes, we usually record our therapy sessions only like a week or two before the day they go live. With most of our episodes, when we're interviewing guests, we're interviewing our guests like 6 to 8 weeks before they go live. So the therapy sessions, because our sort of like window of recording to the date it goes live is so much narrower, I don't put that on our editors, although they can do it. They have the capacity. Like, we totally could pass them to them and it wouldn't be an issue. I just like to get my fingers on like one episode a month.
Get your dirty fingers.
I like to get my dirty fingers on this episode.
Yeah, so we haven't done a therapy session in a while. So this
what are you talking about? One came out just 4 weeks ago.
Recording, that is. Yeah, see, it's all funky when we're recording back here. We don't know timing of anything unless we're looking at a schedule.
We're in like a time distortion field with our podcast. Like, literally, we don't know what episode is coming out. Like this is coming out on a Tuesday. I have no idea what episode's coming out on Thursday.
Matt, I don't even know what day it is or what time it is. I'm in a time distortion in life right now.
Yeah. Well, we don't need to tell people when it is. We'll just leave the mystery open.
I have other distortions happening, though, that are unrelated to podcasting, distorting time for me.
Yeah. I've got some distortion pedals.
Those are cool. Those are cool. No, I'm not on some wicked drugs or anything. Like, whoa, is it dark outside? Is it light? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, with the time change, it has been freaking weird.
That has actually screwed the mind a little bit. No, and this will be part of the episode, but last week had a quite a big change in my life happen.
Oh yeah, I didn't hear about it. What happened?
No, I didn't hear about it. You don't realize like my reference to time distortion, why I'm lack of sleep, why I'm really tired right now.
No, did something weird happen?
Yeah,
something
just,
new?
Baby just came out of nowhere and is now living in our house.
Yeah. Well, from the day that we're recording this, that was 1 week ago today.
Correcto, at 6:07.
Yeah, the baby. So people can do their own math on it, but the baby was born on Halloween.
Yes. Technically 3 hours from now will be a week. Yeah. So pretty freaking cool. Yeah. So our first biological baby, McKenna, came out at Halloween right at sunset, which is pretty cool. And she's super cool. Wife is super healthy and cool as well.
That's good. That's good. It's good to hear that she didn't become uncool after the baby came.
Yeah. Well, I was a little worried there in the moment. I was like, oh, she looks very angry right now. I don't know why. No, I'm just kidding. It was very apparent why. I have mad respect for all women that walk this planet, especially those who have given birth in any format of birthing. Mad respect. You are much stronger than men. So Matt's obviously...
I'm nodding my head. I agree.
Oh, because I saw you do a little... I was like, ooh, Matt's about to get bitch slapped by every woman on this planet.
Men rule, women's rule. No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't mean bitch slapping. I meant like legit slap Matt the next time you see him, man or woman.
No, my wife has had 2 kids and she had to get cut open to have them. So I definitely
not good.
Agree with you.
Yeah. So that's where my head has been lately in this last week is time distortion is real. Yeah. When I'm up every few hours in the night, helping my wife, or we're all just trying to figure out a rhythm, and it's all good. Yeah. It's getting better day by day.
Yeah. Well, I think this episode is going to be like a legit therapy session in the truest sense of the word, because we're going to be talking about sort of mental shifts and mindset and some rough stuff that's kind of popped up recently, and and just kind of discuss how mostly how you've been dealing with it. And, I'll share my perspectives on things, but a lot of this is more, basically shit that's happened in your life, good and bad.
Yeah. Both. It's a balance and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't really know how to transition into this conversation without it just sounding like a really weird transition. But, October was a pretty gnarly month.
Yeah. Yeah, like from start to finish, really.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
you know,
It all started on October 9th.
All right, so let's
So that fateful day.
let's go ahead and get into it.
I guess that's there's no better way to start.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was actually October 9th, but it was October 10th when I first realized what was going on. That was when I was awoken by a deputy at my door, my front door. And that deputy was there to tell me that my father just died the night before by way of himself. He killed himself. And definitely did not see that coming at all. And it sucks, obviously, like a lot, especially the fact that had a baby coming.
Yeah.
Like she did come earlier, so she wasn't expected in October, but definitely, you know, within that span of time. And he knew it. And the last time I chatted with him was, he said, you know, give a hug to Heather, my wife, and McKenna, my baby. So that's what's kind of crazy where, so that was October 9th of 2019 here. And yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know where to start there because since that period, it's just wild. Like I can, like mentally, like business doesn't matter at that point. Obviously it matters, but it does not occupy.
It fell pretty far down the priority list.
Like immediately without trying, obviously, like when any important thing like that happens in our lives. But it was kind of, I mean, that was one, I guess, thing to reflect that I've been reflecting on is like, wow, that just shows like how important we think, or I might think business is to me, you know, and it'd be interesting for you listening to think about like, if you're always constantly have business on the mind, or I'm going to make money or do this launch or do this campaign or blah, 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 and you like can't think about like the family or friends or what you're doing in the moment, like I would say check yourself a little bit and like maybe just try to dump your brain of like business stuff a little bit so you can actually enjoy like the people around you and be present, because this was that shift for me.
Yeah. No, I feel like we get so caught up in business as like this is, you know, the most important thing that we can be focusing on, right? Like we've got to pay the bills, we've got to do this, we've got this deadline, we've got this phone call that we've got scheduled, that you know we've got like all of this kind of stuff that we feel is really, really important. It's like, you know, the people that are in your life right now, you know, they may not be there tomorrow. There's people around you right now that the possibility is they're not there tomorrow. You might not be here tomorrow. Like, you know, me on the mic, I may not be around tomorrow after recording this. You just literally never know what's going to happen. You never know like what the next day brings. And I think having that sort of perspective is it's really powerful, really important to have that perspective of like, you know, what am I doing with my day? Because tomorrow's not guaranteed, you know?
Yeah. And it's one that we all have to, I think, approach eventually in some format. And, you know, if you don't, then and I'll get into this and some of my realizations of thinking about my dad and, you know, the qualities that I've instilled from him and the ones that I don't want to instill from him. Like there's obviously a balance. We all have our ups and downs in our personalities. Yeah. And yeah, so whatever that is for you listening, like if there's like an imbalance, I guess, like that's the thing. And Matt and I have done a lot of different meditation type things, experiences and whatnot, where there's no perfect balance, but the goal is to always try to get to balance. And it's going to be a wavering thing from unbalanced to balanced. It's just like being on a skateboard or whatever. Like all you're doing is just sticking balance, dealing with what's coming your way, a crack in the freaking sidewalk or a rock or whatever, you know, a hill, like just try to stay balanced. And that's pretty much how I'm taking this. Is I realized, and I wasn't like all business all day every day, but 100% I knew that going to bed and obviously I didn't have a kid in the house either, so it was a little different scenario. So like things have changed a lot really fast, but business was on the mind a lot, and not just for me but my wife as well. And you know, finances and business and growth and partnerships and models and whatever, you know, it's like, and it's great. But at the same time, it didn't really allow myself to slow down and like get a little bit more introspective about like, what am I actually doing with the business or with my time in general?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to business specifically, if you don't have that sort of bigger why, then everything else at some point may feel a little more meaningless, right? I think one of the things I know I struggle with personally is, every day getting up, doing the work, going through my routine, pushing forward in the business to try to bring more money in, but then wondering, okay, well, what do I need the more money for? What's the bigger purpose that I'm like trying to shoot for with the money that I'm trying to bring in? And when that sort of vision gets fuzzy, that's when, at least me personally, I start to question why I'm doing all this shit.
So exactly what you just said right there, and I know you have it written down in front of you, are why I came up with these like 4 realizations because of that. Because of exactly that, actually. Because like right now we're getting coached. We always have a mentor, and we're being coached to essentially break through our mental barriers of income, of what our business can make and what we're capable of and how we spend our time and all that. And it goes exactly what you're saying. And it's a struggle because for us, just in full transparency, I feel like we have hit a blockage because of a mental thing in our business, and we've been very successful. Obviously ups and downs, we all have those in business. It's not perfect at all, but like we've said before on this podcast, like we have 2 homes that we own in San Diego. That's like one of the most expensive places in the world, in the country especially. And it's beautiful here, and we're surrounded by family. We both have kids now.
Yep.
And we have I have more than I think my family had for a long time when I was growing up. 100%. We're in like a much nicer situation, I would say.
Yeah.
With a lot more upside potential as well. And so my realizations were like, and before getting into them, because I was struggling with that actually. I was like, wait, hold on. I'm setting this new monthly like income goal for myself, but like why?
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna like pay for some stuff that I want, pay down some debts and all that stuff. But it's like, but that's not like super driving me. What is it? That's like the bigger thing that's driving me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. And that's why I actually went through this exercise. So, because now I am pumped up.
Yeah, I mean, later on in this episode, I think we can kind of talk. So we're working with a guy named Michael Kim, who's sort of coaching us right now on some mindset and some funnel stuff, kind of a blend. And we'll get into that later in the episode and kind of talk about some of the, some of the ways we've changed our routines, our morning routines, some of the ways we've, some new perspective shifts and things like that. But before we get into that, I am curious to hear. So the 4 perspective shifts that you had that are like specific to your dad. You were telling me before we started recording that you saw, you obviously saw like a lot of like amazing traits in your dad, and you loved your dad, and there was a lot that about him that you really liked. But there was a handful of traits that you're like, I see these in him, but I also see them in me. So I need to reverse this cycle now.
Right.
There's a pattern that's emerged, and the pattern fucking stops with me. Right. And that's what you were telling me. So let's get into that real quick and talk about the handful of things that you said, okay, these are the areas I'm going to reverse this pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. That was, and this is a pretty fast realization, I guess I had after his passing, maybe like a week after, I don't know, handful of days after. And it's crazy, yeah, going through things like the processing of just how like ups and downs and all that stuff, like new glimmers of things come up. But it like with the looming baby coming at the time, like I knew, the buck stops here. I got to break the cycle of certain things that I don't like in just my family in general. I wouldn't say just my dad, but even just in my own personality, which I know a lot of that is fostered from our parents, it's just how we all are. But so I realized like there's 4 things, and in full honesty, the 4th one, I'm like, I kind of forget a little bit. So it might actually pop up a little bit because I think the one I gave you is not actually accurate.
I know that you remember 3 of them, and I actually have notes on the 3 that you know.
Let's go with the 3 for sure, because I think they're very important. The 4th, I think I can kind of it'll bubble up. So, in thinking of this, so with a baby coming, that is where my, or she's here now, but that is where my bigger purpose, for like making more money, streamlining the business, lifestyle, because like that can only go so far. That was like my drivers. It's like, I'll be at home with the family, and not have to go to a place at any specific time unless I choose to or whatever, have this lifestyle that we currently live, and extend that. But I'm like, but that's not like really pumping me up. And I think you share the same thing, because it's like, we kind of got that.
Yeah.
And so then when I was looking at my dad, I'm like, okay, so what are these things that, we'll never know what drove him to do what he did, but I can at least see how he, some factors that might have led him to that point, and things that, I think I just thought of the fourth one.
Oh, yeah.
It's stuck in my head now.
Okay, good.
So I knew it would, because head clears when I just talk. And so basically I realized like there's like 4 things that I feel like he maybe passed to me, but at least I'm aware of, that I want to make sure that I'm not going to do. Or and this in my perspective changes, I've constantly told myself, flip the coin. And now so more, a little less, because I feel like I'm in a much better headspace. But like when we met with our buddy Steve Olsher, which was like a week after my dad's passing, or maybe a handful of days or something. Steve's a super cool dude. He's been on this podcast and he's very supportive. He's a smart guy, and he's been through some depressive stages and stuff. He has his own framework around it.
And his wife's also runs a mortuary. So
That's right.
Death is actually a part of their pretty consistent life.
Yeah. And it's wild, because because just this, losing my dad or losing my parents, like it was like my biggest fear, one of them. So these perspective changes, basically I realized, and Steve was like, it would be really cool if you identified what are these things that maybe have led him to his decision, and share those, like in here, like I'm doing now, and help others potentially. And entrepreneurs, yes, but like anyone, like suicide rates are up. It sucks.
We've talked about it on multiple episodes about depression and what entrepreneurs go through. Obviously your dad wasn't an entrepreneur himself, but the things that lead to depression are fairly universal. I believe.
And they are, I think. So we just have different pressures as an entrepreneur. So basically, this is a long story short to say that these are the perspectives. I'm like, okay, I know there's great qualities I have from my dad, and there's also qualities that are not so good from my dad that he's passed on. Nothing like he chose to pass them on, just being a sponge, and being a kid. So one of them is debt. Like he died with debt, and I'm not going to say that was like a trigger for him to do what he did, but at the same time, it definitely was not helping.
Yeah, it was at least a piece of it.
It was definitely a piece of it. And he always had like debt has like been in our family. And like when growing up and stuff like that. And that extends on to us as well in certain aspects. Like there's business debt, there's personal debt in certain regards too. But like, I don't know, prior to this point, I was like, that's not cool though. Like I didn't really have the big motivation to be like, that needs to go away, but now I'm like, no, that's screwed up, because that's actually a really, like, it's a mental baggage. It's a weight. It's not a wealth. So basically I'm going back to this flip the coin thing. Every one of these perspectives. So like the whole debt thing, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to pass that down to my kid. I don't want to just live it myself. So how do we flip the coin? Oh, that's to instill wealth building traits and practices into my personality and my day-to-day lives, and then into my kids' lives. So things like what we're working on with Mike Kim is better money habits, the mindset around money, setting bigger goals, but also financial things like he uses the Fier movement from Dave Ramsey, I believe is who made it. Or
no, Dave Ramsey I think talks about it.
Just talks about it. Okay.
Maybe he made it. I don't know, but Fier, it's an acronym. It's
freedom. No, financial. crap.
So RE stands for retire early.
Yeah, I know that's. You can look it up if I'm talking, or it doesn't really matter, really.
Yeah.
The whole point is like it's essentially saving money consistently, cutting your expenses where you really don't really want them anyway, or shouldn't.
Yeah. Maybe it's financial independence, retire early, or something like that.
Yeah. But and that's the long story short, is just have these really good financial skills where like we don't have to worry about debt and we can get what we want, but also have this like mental baggage of not having enough or having this debt on you. It's just not a good mental space to be in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's financial independence, retire early.
Nice. Yeah. FIRE movement, FIRE.
Yeah, so, and yeah. The thing about debt too specifically is debt is like you dig a hole, you get yourself down in that hole, and then when you try to dig out of that hole, there's like a foot kicking you and keeping you down in that hole. So it's probably not the best analogy, but like when you think of debt, like let's say you want to invest money and you want to invest it in something that gets a 10% annual return. Well, if you have $50,000 in debt that is accruing interest at a rate of 15% a month, everything you're putting in the investments is being offset by even more with your debt. So you're actually never actually climbing out of it with any investments. So I know at one point Mark Cuban said, I don't remember the quote or anything, it might have even been in his book, but he said that the absolute number one investment that you can make if you have debt is pay that debt off, because now you're instantly getting
movement forward. Really,
you're actually making progress moving forward on any future investments.
Totally. Yeah, it's the whole analogy of 1 step forward, 2 step back.
Exactly.
Like that's pretty much debt in a nutshell. So I saw that in my dad. I've seen that in my mom, and like just growing up. And it's very apparent. I mean, me being next of kin, this is what also is part of this. It's like, oh, cool. And luckily my wife's helping out tremendously on this. But it's like all of his stuff and all of these things are now dumped on us to like figure out all the accounts and, so we're seeing everything. And I'm just like, fuck.
So this is just more of my own curiosity question, but what happens with all of his debt? Does somebody else have to take it on? Or is it forgiven after death? I mean, I don't know how that
credit
works.
Cards, are just, they're basically cleared, but we have to still address all of them. He had no assets.
Yeah.
Which is part of the whole wealth thing as well. So have assets and investments and insurance and things, a will. Like these are all things that he did not have.
Yeah.
And this is nothing, like, just to say this here, and there might be people that know me or knew my dad listening. Like, obviously, this is nothing to disparage anything against him.
Yeah, no, these are just, you're just kind of talking facts.
I'm just talking facts and the things that I'm seeing that most probably no one is seeing from him. And these are takeaways where I for sure am going to learn from and still better. But yeah, like, so yes, like those credit card debts and all stuff, basically his car is the only thing that was worth any money and it wasn't worth much. So that will be sold to essentially like all the funds, anything that comes from that will just go to credit cards. But other than that, we just tell him he's dead. You're not getting the money. That's it. Like it doesn't pass on, luckily.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so that's a big thing, is the whole wealth thing. So flipping the coin. So no debt, wealth.
Yeah.
That's what I want to instill. Another one is addiction. So he loved his beer. This is not what drove him to anything, I don't think, but he was actually he actually was sober for a year prior to this. But addiction to anything, really. Like an addictive personality, we all have it in something. And like there's obviously good addictions and bad addictions. Like there's even breathing is an addiction, like you and I were talking about. And I feel like in me flipping the coin, this whole addiction thing, because I noticed my dad really loved beer for a long time. And that's why I got turned on to IPAs and so many good beer. He loved all the craft brewing, the overtime event we did. He never got to go to, but he fucking loved the fact that we brew in San Diego with some of the biggest brewers in the brewing community. Yeah. And like, he's just like, what? He always wanted to actually work with us or for us if we owned a brewery one day.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, do you got a job? but he, got a little loving the beer a little bit too much. But that got me thinking, like, you know what? There's addictions that we all have, and something, and it might be something that we're just not super proud of, or something. It could even just be like waking up late all the time. But we're like, man, I really want to wake up early. It's like, okay, well, let's figure out a plan to get around that.
Yeah.
So my kind of flip the coin thing there was being more controlled with my actions. Intentional is another one I think you said. So like we can be intentional with our breathing, like we were talking about, because you're like, so how do you control that? Like an addiction. I'm like, well, actually, this is what I've been using to get through this, is like box breathing or Wim Hof breathing, because that's completely deliberate. And that's controlling something that we kind of just take for granted.
Yeah. No, I think when it comes to, addictions or habits, or, however you want to, talk about that kind of thing. Really, I think it all comes down to the idea of know why you're doing it. I think it's real easy for people to sort of fall into a routine of like, I come home from work, I crack a beer, and then like 3 hours later, I'm 6 or 7 beers in, and that's just kind of like my daily routine, right? Like I've had points in my life where I've had that sort of thing with THC and weed, right? Is like it became kind of part of my routine, where at the end of the day, after I was done working, I would go and smoke something and check out and relax. And it got very, very, very habitual, to the point where like in the evenings, like I was doing my work during the day, looking forward to being done with work so I can go smoke. It kind of got to that point where like it was starting to become the thing that I looked forward to. Now I still use THC, but I have very specific reasons for using it, right? Like if I'm starting to feel like a lot of anxiety creep in, I might, indulge a little. If I feel like, I might have a hard time sleeping, or, my wheels are spinning too much and I know I want to fall asleep, I might use that as a tool to help me fall asleep. But it's more about, this is my escape that I'm looking forward, or less about this is the escape that I'm looking forward to, and more now about like, I'm using this as a tool to make my life better.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's perfect, because there's things like Netflix or YouTube. Think about the countless. I mean, the fact that you hear people say like, "Oh, I'm gonna go Netflix binge or whatever." It's like, yeah, it's because it's a freaking addiction.
Yeah.
And social media. I mean, these things are built to get you addicted, as is soda and sugar and smoking and cigarettes and weed even. Yeah, I mean,
I agree that things like binge watching things on Netflix can be addictive.
Can be, yes.
But I also believe that it is okay to have an escape that you enjoy from time to time, as long as it doesn't become a problem for you or other people in your life. I binge watch shit on Netflix from time to time, but
we do too.
I go multiple nights per week where we don't even turn on the TV all week. So.
Just being intentional.
Being intentional and having the awareness, the self-awareness to realize when it is actually starting to shift into something that could be problematic.
Yeah. So I think that's I know that's something. I think just being very deliberate and intentional with any kind of recurring thing is probably going to help us more than anything, because it's those consistent things. That's the thing. Like even in our business, like the most consistent things we do, i.e., record these podcasts, is probably the most consistent thing out of everything. Has opened up so much good in our lives and business. Yeah. So it's like, just think about any consistent thing you're doing. There is an effect that's happening on your lives, for good or bad or neutral.
So you're saying you're addicted to podcasting, but you're happy about it?
Yeah, no, of course. And yeah, because it is. I mean, we love it,
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people will if they try podcasting, or if they have one that's listening. It's a good addiction, or it can be, as long as you have a good model and a reason why you're doing it, which we do. But yeah, like it's good addictions are cool, but again, intentional, because we know like any consistent thing is going to bring in effects somewhere.
Yeah. Any
consistent thing. So it's like, let's just make sure that consistent thing is bringing good or something more valuable to you.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of a realization in the moment, actually. Like anything consistent is really so damn powerful. Yeah. If you apply it to
it. Could be very powerful in a positive or a negative direction, basically.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we've got your ending the cycle of debt.
Yeah.
not necessarily ending the cycle of addiction, but being very, very aware of these things that could potentially turn into addictions, and just being very conscious of it and
intentional with my
intentional
actions.
and deliberate with it.
Yeah.
All right. So what was your third realization?
So the third realization, which I think is in front of you, I'm blanking on
Not being so busy all the time.
That's it. Okay. So this wasn't like totally from my dad, because I wouldn't say he was very busy at all. He was actually self-retired, I guess you want to say. But yeah, I mean, so the realization more here was to not be so detached, was to not feel like I'm constantly going from one thing to another without paying attention to the people that are around me or the things I'm actually doing. And, in my dad's scenario, he lived in South Carolina. He was on the East Coast, which is where his family was from. There's a whole story that we don't need to get into now, but basically he moved back there, I don't know, 15 years ago or something like that. And it really detached him from us, like this side of the family. And he knew it, but at the same time had his own things, and that's fine. Yeah, it is what it is. But I saw that as like, okay, well, there's definitely things that could have been done differently. And because of that, got him into a scenario where he felt actually like he was really detached from people around him and people that actually did love him, friends and family. But he kind of pushed him away a bit because he didn't totally see how people actually loved him. And these are, in saying all this, these are kind of indicators as well for depression and stuff like that. So 100% like having a group around you and not feeling like busy, or you're just like so locking everybody else out. So this one is being more deliberate about, or what's the word? I think maybe it was deliberate that I wrote down.
Controlled. Oh wait, no,
no,
that
that's
the other
addiction.
one. No, you said deliberate.
Deliberate. Okay, so yeah, the flipping the coin thing here is like, okay, so any action I'm doing in my day, or even just planning on my schedule, like this goes back to Dave Asprey about, what's the most valuable thing? Well, it's not time, it's energy. So it's the energy we're putting into people, things, our projects, our family, like all that. And I realized that I was dispersing my energy all over the place, willy-nilly scheduling calls or even podcast interviews and loading up my schedule. And, like after my dad died, I just fucking canceled almost everything for like the foreseeable future. Yeah. Obviously the things that were absolutely important, like Matt and I chatted, our team chat and all that stuff. But like a call that didn't really have an intention behind it. Why? Yeah. Like, it's great to touch base, but why?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, we actually started doing that a little bit when you knew the baby was coming too.
That's
I think we
true.
pretty much wiped the entire month of November clean and said we're not talking to anybody. And now that the baby's here, we're starting to put things back on the calendar.
Slowly.
But, yeah.
I'm still not in the headspace. I'm still like,
I mean, we're not loading up our days or anything, but
And
especially not you. I'm taking on a few more calls and things like that than I normally would. But for the most part, we're keeping November pretty easy going for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's it's a good realization. I think me personally, I have that realization like off and on. Like I'll have it like every like 2 weeks. I'll be like, man, I've just been have my head buried. I don't know what's going on around me. I've been working on this project for the last 2 weeks and I don't know what's going on. And then I'll sort of snap out of it and then go too far in the opposite direction and not get a whole bunch of stuff done. And then I'll be like, we haven't accomplished a lot in the last couple of weeks. And then I kind of, me personally, just speaking for myself, I kind of go in these cycles of like hardcore, get a bunch of shit done, take my foot off the gas for a couple of weeks. Hardcore, get a bunch of shit done, take my foot off the gas for a couple of weeks.
It's true. Yeah. No, and I do the same thing and have done that. And that's where it's like, we'll have a glimmer of motivation or we'll have a brainstorming session, you and I, and then like, we'll walk away all pumped, but then like, we'll go hard on something for a week or a couple days that launch that thing, but then it's almost like we move on to the next thing sometimes. Obviously it's not with everything, but this is kind of like the start stop that I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs do. So I feel like I'm speaking for a lot of people here.
It's true.
But in this realization, so it sounds surface level, I guess maybe, but like I've thought about all of these at even deeper is like the whole busy thing. And the energy thing, like what Dave Asprey said, energy is that commodity that's like, you gotta protect that thing. my energy, I want to make sure that it's being spent in the right places where you and I, like, that's why we have this beautiful flow chart now of our entire business.
Yeah.
Like, I want us to hammer that fucking flow chart and not deviate much at all.
Yep.
Because I'm realizing we've deviated a lot, and I've deviated a lot. I know, like, with basically, I've realized that I can be a lot more accountable to myself to execute deliberately, but on this plan that we set out for ourselves that has a well thought out vision and a plan. And it's like, trust the plan, trust that, be consistent, and work that motherfucker, like, because good stuff will happen. And I think I definitely jump around from certain thing to certain things. Like, I'll do hop of calls, we'll watch YouTube videos. You and I will chat for hours on end about, like, brainstorming something. And then, like, let's be honest, most of the time nothing ever happens. And that fucking kills me. Like, because that's so much wasted energy right there if we don't act upon it. Obviously amazing things come from those conversations and from us tinkering around, so that's never going to stop. But I feel like the deliberate actions, like, for me, like, being super deliberate with, like, I'm looking at Matt's checklist on OmniFocus right now, his to-do list. Like, that's something that I've actually gotten better at doing, because I haven't been as, like, here's my hit list. But not like, here's my 20 hit list for the day. It's like, here are the 3-4 rocks, and being very deliberate to work the plan that we're working towards.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we don't have to get into this right now, but, part of the whole checklist thing that I do is I actually have a whole bunch of, like, what do you call them? Like, sort of softball tasks, right? Like,
I do the same thing. I'm not pointing out the fact that you have more than, like, 3 things on there.
Yeah. I think I've got, like, I don't know. I typically have, like, maybe 10 things in a day that I'm trying to work through, but, like, 3 of them are, like, softball tasks where I'm like, this will take me 3 minutes. I get to check it off. And when I check it off, that starts to build sort of mental momentum for the day. So sure. That's part of the whole game plan there. But I do think, like, that's some good insights. I think when you start to have these realizations of, like, what is really important in life, it is important to generate an income for yourself, but it's also important to make sure that you're balancing it with, family and friends and relationships and all this other stuff that's going on around you. If you have a specific faith, balancing all of that kind of stuff is important as well. And I think as we get deeper and deeper into this business, we're freaking 12 years into this shit now. You think we'd have our shit figured out, which, that's a whole different story for a different day. But,
we have enough figured out to look like we do.
Yeah, that's true. As you get deeper and deeper and deeper into this, what you start to realize is a lot of the shit that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, if I didn't do it, would that really be that harmful to the business?
That's what I'm talking about, that.
Right? And so we start to find things that we can shave off, or we can find other things that team members are perfectly capable of doing, but we've just held on to ourselves and things like that. And I think over the last 12 years, that's what we've slowly gotten better and better and better at. The thing that we haven't totally gotten better at is when we give up things, when we find something that we're like, we really don't need to be doing this. We haven't been good at not replacing it with something else.
That's true. Yeah.
Right?
It's like, there's like an empty bottle or a full bottle, and we just like pour out some. So there's like 3/4 now. And we're like, hey, we have room to breathe. There's oxygen now. But then we're like, let's put some more water in there.
Well, even going back to, like, the debt example, right? Like, what a lot of people do, and this is a big problem that get people in more and more trouble, is you've got these, like, debt consolidation loans that you can get, right? So let's say I owe $50,000 in credit card debt across, like, 6 credit cards. I can go get one loan for $50,000, pay off all these credit cards with it, and now I have one loan. Well, you know what most people do? They go, I have 5 free credit cards now. I'm going to go to Best Buy and get that fucking Mavic Pro that I've been wanting.
Fill 'em up.
I'm going to go get that MacBook Pro because my credit card's empty now, right? And, in the beginning, it feels fairly harmless. Like, hey, it's only $500. I'll pay that off next month. No big deal. The next thing you know, you've got this debt consolidation loan where you owe $48,000 on it still, and your old credit cards, you now owe 20 grand on them, and now you're at 70 grand in debt when you thought this debt consolidation this is a long analogy for me saying that's what people tend to do with their time as well.
No, you're right. And it's it's like, what's your relationship with money, but also like, what's your relationship with time or energy, however you want to put it. It's crazy, but yeah, you're right.
But I think that's the thing that we haven't been the best at over 12 years. But I think in the last several months, with the stuff that's been happening and the new things, like we'll get into this in a couple minutes, and the new things that have been added onto our plate and things like that, we kind of have no choice.
Right. And I like that.
We're kind of forced into this place where we're like, we got to get rid of shit because we don't have enough hours in the day to take on all the shit that we're talking about doing.
You know what I like about this whole thing, and this really happened actually after my dad, and thinking of this specifically is, I know I have the capacity to do much better than I'm currently doing. 100% and I think we all do. Actually, I know we all do. And I haven't, and I know these blind spots in me, and I know a lot of these things, but I know I also haven't taken action to change those things. And this actually is a challenge, and I promised my dad, obviously after he left, but his spirit, that I would do this, and the fourth one too, of these things. But it's like, I'm going to do right by him and for my family and me, that I will change these things. And I know I have a bigger game to play. And I love the fact that we're working with some of the biggest people in our freaking industry. So accountability just shot up through the roof.
Yeah.
We have our own team, Shannon on our team, and other people that rely on us. That's accountability. You is accountability to me. Family, my kid now, my wife, like, I'm like, okay, I want to step up. It's not that I got to, I want to.
Yeah.
And I love the challenge of this big, scary shit, because I'm like, you know what? I know I'm capable.
Yeah.
I know we're both capable. We're all capable. If it's in our laps, like right here in front of us, you're capable.
Yeah.
You just got to figure out how to actually do it. And it's probably letting go of some things that you're like holding on too tight.
For sure. Yeah.
So
what was that fourth lesson? The one that we actually don't have notes on because you couldn't remember before we hit record.
Pretty sure I figured it out. I know either way, I know this is a big thing, is guilt, is holding on to guilt. So it's guilt about anything. And I'm not going to get into my dad's stuff, but let's just say there's a lot of guilt there. I mean, one of them being that he wasn't around his kids. And he
felt a lot of guilt, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, obviously him not having money and all that stuff, he felt partially that he wasn't going to be able to come out here to see his granddaughter, my girl. And that's just extra guilt. And, some of this, obviously I'm kind of assuming, but a lot of the stuff I do know as well from his past. And, but that had obviously all of this I brought internally, like, okay, so I could see he was struggling with guilt, and guilt is not good. Like I know some of the training Mike Kim has been doing with us is like training us to get out of this guilt, like holding any guilt about anything, because guilt doesn't serve you, doesn't serve anybody. It's all just dwelling on the past and something that we can't change. The only thing we can do is act on something that's going to improve ourselves or the thing. Learn from that thing, but it doesn't have to be guilt, because that's the shit that spirals us into bad places.
Yeah. I think if you do feel guilty about things, you should be asking yourself, I think you need to be having like an internal dialogue. Why do I feel guilty about this? Because I feel like the other side of guilt is there's typically a resolution. If you feel guilty about something, maybe all it takes is a phone call and an apology, and the guilt is gone, right? So I feel like there's always a flip side to guilt. And if you feel guilty all the time for things, but you're not looking for the solution to the guilt, that's the real problem.
It is,
and
it's sticking in the guilt. Like I know for my dad, there was enough stuff that it seems like it just compounded on his life, and being in a place that he felt alone. I'm assuming a little bit here, because obviously number will know the full answers, but the fact that, you pushed a lot of people away, like that's huge, but there's like guilt associated to that. And there's reasons why he did that. not being around, me or my sister, family over here. I'm sure there was guilt there, not having the money to go see people, like all these layers of things. And this is just him, but like there's layers of things that I could say for myself as well. And the key is like to just not stay in that guilt, because guilt doesn't serve. So flipping that to be more of like, okay, like kind of like I was saying, use that as a lesson and figure out how do we move past that. Like that's just a little like an indicator on our dashboard if we're driving our car, like oh, you got freaking a leaky tire, your PSIs are going down. Well, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to feel guilty because I didn't patch that up like yesterday or pump it up before I got in the car. Like, fuck, I didn't know. But like it's an indication. It's like, oh, I should probably take care of that, stop at the gas station or get a new tire. Like that's about it. And like that's how we should just look at things in life.
It's your check engine light.
Pretty much.
So, I love that. So, the month of October was obviously a roller coaster of a month. So not only did your dad pass, but you also had a new baby come into your life. So I actually kind of want to sort of flip the exact same stuff we've been talking about, but kind of look at it from the opposite direction. Now that you have, not that you haven't had kids in the past, you've obviously fostered and you know what it's like to raise children. But with this stuff happening with your dad and with you having your baby in the same month, what are some of the traits from your dad that you're like, this is what I fucking loved about him, and I'm going to make sure I perpetuate these things in my family? That's
good. I like this. Okay. So the first one is just being a people person, like having this sense of humor and having a very like I 100% get hit. And my mom is very personable as well, but this is definitely my dad. Like reading all the comments from when I posted something on Facebook about him passing and some of the lessons already I was posting on there. I saw all these stories from his friends and people I just don't even know that said like, oh my God, your dad was like the nicest person I've ever met. He always gave me a hug. When I got to work, he always like, he's one I genuinely love as like a family, my own. Like he treated me as such, as family, not just like some person. And like people were like, yeah, he was there to help me move when like absolutely no one else was there to help, and I had no clue like how I was going to do this. Like there was just stories and stories and stories after. I was like, holy crap. Like there is in a lot of, like, I didn't know a lot of these. He didn't tell me these, but I 100% know and believe them because I saw them when I was a kid. Like all of my friends in elementary school loved him. And like kids don't normally love parents, at least like not in like the rebel stages and all that, but like in middle school, and like they fucking flocked to my dad because he was always around. He was showed up for them. He was involved. And but he also was very, maybe this was actually my fourth one, but I think it is actually, but having fun, like always just having fun. And it counts, whatever, we'll just throw it on the list. But basically he always had a very fun demeanor, very playful, played music, like a lot of these very kid-like features, I would say. He always had that, and it resonated with everyone, not only kids, but having that playful nature and not taking shit so seriously. He was amazing at that. And that I know for a long time I did not have in my life. And I was taking things too literally, too seriously. There's a deadline, or worrying about something that is completely out of my control. It's like kids aren't out there. Like your kid right now, Cora's out there like playing with Legos. Fucking awesome. My dad loved playing Legos with me. Like I want to go play Legos with her. Like I swear to God, like I'd rather do that right. No, I don't. Actually, I love chatting about this, but it's stuff like that. Like I want to be there and be like that for McKenna, my daughter, and her friends, and my family, and all that. That's a huge personality trait.
I could definitely attest to all that about your dad. I mean, I've spent time with him, 4 or 5 times. I don't remember how many times, but I've had many opportunities. He was in town a
lot when you were around.
Whenever he was in San Diego, I usually saw him at least once while he was in town. And that the best way I could describe him was that he always just seemed so jolly. I can't think of a better descriptor. Like he was just always happy, always seemed like he loved everybody that was around him, always just wanted to have fun. He just always seemed like he was just looking for fun. And He was a barbecue guru. I remember he came over to our
chef in general, man.
I remember like he came over to our house when we lived up in Marietta, one of the times when he was visiting, and he came over because we were going to barbecue at my house. And I really should have just handed him the tongs and said, "Hey, you be in control of the barbecue."
You would have loved that too.
Because I think I was cooking steak or chicken or something. I don't remember what I was cooking, but I remember he kept on coming over and looking over my shoulder and being like, "You got to in about 30 seconds, you got to flip that
That's
one."
right. Yeah.
And then I'd go grab some tongs. He's like, "Oh no, not those tongs. Go grab those tongs over there. Those tongs are gonna work better." And he was like, he was sort of like educating me and like. Most of what I know about barbecuing now, I learned from your dad because like he was like over my shoulder, like telling me how to cook the meat, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, I think if I throw it on here for long enough, it'll cook all the way through, right?
I'm pretty sure I remember this exact day because you said, I know you've said it in the past, I don't know if it was here, but like cooking chicken freaks you out and like brings you anxiety or whatever. But like I learned how to cook chicken from him.
Yeah.
And it's fucking easy, but at the same time, I could see that, and I think that he might have been kind of coaching you a little bit on that specifically too. Because I definitely have fond memories of him grilling since the day I can remember. And that's 100%. He was a great chef. Great cook.
So are there any other like personality traits that you saw in him that you see in yourself that you want to make sure keep getting passed down?
I mean, there's so many like that one is like the biggest one because I feel like that spills over into so many different things. Like I can go to town all day long about exactly what he like being he was very engaged with people like in the moment, showed love. Like, okay, so the amount of love that he gave to people is like humongous, massive, and he meant it. It wasn't just like surface level stuff, but actually like really caring about people and being very tapped in and empathetic. And obviously he had his own like selfish type stuff as well, which we all should have. But the love he showed people in person, when things weren't cloudy in his head, like when he was his true character, like the love that he gave everyone was like outstanding. So that is amazing because people feel that and people remember that forever. Yeah. And I think one of the sort of biggest lessons that could come out of this and the exercise that you went through, and for listeners and for myself and obviously for you, is that I think a lot of these traits that we look at and that we see in other people, we completely take for granted until those people aren't around anymore, right? We talked about this,
like a lot of these things, were they things that you noticed? I mean, I'm sure you noticed how happy and jolly he was, but a lot of the negative stuff, it was probably amplified by, what happened. You might have kind of had like little inklings that, things were rough, like in the financial area, or, he was upset that he wasn't able to get over to San Diego more, that kind of thing. But, I think when tragedy strikes, all of that stuff was like amplified. You're like, oh shit, like I saw all these things as like, little shit that he had to deal with and that kind of sucked, but now I'm realizing, man, that was obviously not that little of shit to him.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people just kind of take that stuff for granted, and the people around them, like, your parents, your wives, your kids, your friends that you don't talk to as often, you don't know the struggle that they're going through. You don't really know the magnitude of what they're going through. They may tell you, I'm in debt and it's hard to pay the bills right now or something. And you go, oh man, that sucks. Or, maybe I can lend you some money or something. Or you don't really think too much about it because we live in this sort of culture of just like, everybody seems unhappy. So this is just kind of the way it is. And then when something like this happens, you're like, oh shit, I really should be paying closer attention to what's going on around me and the other people in my life that maybe I'm not paying as much attention to around me all the time. You know?
And giving them credit for the good that they're bringing. Because you're right. There's a lot of that, because I know 100% that was the case with my dad too, is bringing up some of these more negative things rather than appreciating him and thanking him. And that's, to be very honest, this is where I thought of these things, because I was in my processing, and this is probably just part of the phases, the whole like stages of grief thing. But like I literally visualized, and this like, I hope this doesn't sound bad, but like I was visualizing like speaking in front of everyone and saying he was a good man. But at the first point when I was thinking about this, I was like, but how is he a good man? Like, I literally like struggled because I think naturally, at least I do, like maybe all of us, that we think of more of the criticisms in people and like some of the more negative things were like, but why didn't he do this? Or what, like, rather than, oh no, shit, there's a lot of good that I just kind of was taking for granted / I wasn't telling him or appreciating that person. It could be anyone. And that's where I did start seeing that, like, oh wait, there's a massive, like, all these loads of great things about him. And then I was like, wait, but that means that there are a lot of, or these certain negative traits, quotes negative, because they're not all negative, but that I can flip and turn for the better. But he was a great man through and through, because he gave me all of this stuff to assess. And it allowed my brain to kind of shift into thinking, what is the really good of this situation and of him in general, and be like, holy crap, like there's a lot of good I can bring from him in that situation and everything he instilled in me.
Yeah. I mean, I really think the lesson there is just like the people around you, you should really be thinking about the things that you're grateful for about those people, or the positive personality traits in those people that are around you at any given time, and let them fucking know. Hear
it.
Like,
appreciation.
I think that's something, somebody made a comment on Facebook recently, because Andy Jenkins passed away, and Sean Stevenson,
same day my dad, it was one of the two.
And Sean so there was a handful of people that kind of passed away over the last few months, and when these people passed, and Dan Kennedy died and then came back to life, and I think he's good now. I don't know what's going on with Dan.
I don't know where he stands. I hope he's well.
Yeah, I hope so too. But I think he's actually recovering. That's from awesome. What I understand. But when all of these things happen, people are going to social media talking about how great these people were and how much they changed their life and how impactful this person was on their trajectory in life and all this sort of thing. And somebody else posted on Facebook, like, this is love. This is great. I love seeing all these messages, but why does it take death to share these things with these people? Like, why aren't we sharing them with them when they have the opportunity to see them while they're living?
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true, because that can literally change the trajectory of someone's life too. And we should all, if you're listening, and go just think of one person, just thank them for something awesome that they've showed you or given to you in some way.
Yeah.
Like, just give them that appreciation. Like, give them a call, text, whatever.
Make it a habit. Make it a daily thing.
That'd be, dude, it's like super gratefulness, like gratitude practice right there. And that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Like, guarantee you're getting influenced every single day by someone, even if it's a freaking celebrity. It's like, whatever, tweet them.
Yeah. or even just start with the people around you. Start with your spouse, your kids, your parents, your friends, your neighbors, your roommate, whatever. Like, whoever's around you, your business partner. Joe, you've got, a nice shirt on.
Wow, that's it.
That's it. That's what I got for you right now.
That's fine. I'll take it. Yeah, it's only because it says hustle and flowchart on it. You fucking selfish. I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate that.
That was obviously me joking.
I know. No, in full seriousness, like, in partially, like, Mike Kim, part of, like, every single day he has us doing these morning gratitudes, like thinking of 5 things, and you come up in that almost daily in that, and as do my family and all. By the way. Good. Yeah, it's it, and because that's having these just thoughts, like holding that in our brains. I know this has helped me so much, like with the breathing, gratefulness, talking this stuff out. Like, there's so many tools I've been using this last month in October that gratitude has helped me so much to, like, get my mind straight and be like, okay, this is my next step, or this is like, holy crap, I'm surrounded by so many amazing support people around me that everything works out for the best reason possible. There's a balance to everything. So I've been telling myself like this whole month and beyond, it's like you can always flip the coin, always, doesn't matter. And I freaking flipping it with my dad committing suicide. Like immediately I was flipping the coin, or at least trying to. Obviously it's hard. It's really hard at first. But we could do that. Everyone can. Yeah. But gratefulness goes a long way too.
So
there's a lot of other good traits as well. I don't want to say like he was a great musician, cook. Yeah. Like those are things that I legitimately want to instill in myself more and pass down to my kids. And there's a lot of other cool stuff too. Just having fun, I think, is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to shift into a little bit more. I know this might be a little bit longer than normal episode, but I want to shift a little bit into, now that McKenna, your daughter, is here. Has that, I mean, the answer may be no, because I know you've fostered kids and have had this sort of family dynamic in the past. Has there been any new perspective shifts as a direct result since she's born? Like, have you seen some new changes in you or new ways of thinking that weren't there before she came into the world?
Yeah, totally. So just so if you haven't heard before, I have fostered other kids, one being 4 days old that we picked up at the NICU at the hospital and had her for 15 months. Yeah. And still to this day, we're in contact with her, and she calls us Dada and Mama and all that. And she actually calls McKenna her little sister, which I don't think you even knew about.
No, I didn't.
She literally calls her now, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the world. And so now technically I like to say I have 2 daughters because I technically do. And yeah. So, but yeah, with McKenna specifically, like I was an emotional wreck right when she got pulled out. I was just like, whoa. Yeah. That was like, I just like was like waterworks started. And here's the thing with me, I'm very open, and I think I've gotten a lot more open lately. Honestly, I think it's a lot of like the psychedelic work and, therapy type sessions like this and, just having good people to talk to. Yeah. But like, I don't cry often, but dear God, I've been like waterworks, like just because I'll get these like glimmers of like aha moments with her. And so yeah, right when she was born, I was just, because I've been thinking a lot about my dad, of course. So I would say like the biggest thing is because now she is biologically my kid. Like she's not going to go back to anybody. Is like she's me, and now I'm seeing me in like child form. Partially it's crazy because she looks a lot like me when I was a baby.
Yeah. The beard is uncanny.
Yeah, it's perfect. Came in strong. So like that was the biggie, but also the fact that like she was born in the same place my sister was born, not in the same room, but I remember me being there with my dad and my dad doing very similar things that I did in that same, let's just call it the same room, but it literally looks the same as it did when my sister was born. So I was there, I was like 5 or 6 or 5.5. And, so cutting the cord, all of this stuff, I was just like, fucking, like, this is like a blast to the past in a way. And then when I got home, you do a whole like skin on skin time and all that stuff. So I remember I was laying on my sofa with my shirt off and hers off, and she was just laying on top of me. And I remember I have a picture of my dad somewhere doing the same exact thing with me. And then me feeling like, and that just like opened everything up. Cause then I started seeing like how I fit into this line of like this lineage. And I'm seeing now how everything is just like a pattern. Everything is cyclical. I could see like how alike I am to my dad. And that's where a lot of these like negative traits that I'm flipping, and that I'm sure he tried his best to flip as well, are more important than ever to flip. And I was seeing myself as like, wait, she relies on me. Like I am the one that is feeding, like she's the sponge to me and my wife and everyone else. But more than ever, more so than, our foster baby, like, I'm just like, holy crap. Like, don't fuck this up, Joe. Yeah. Like responsibility galore is on my chest literally right now.
Yeah. And I mean, just wait until they start getting into the ages where they're like talking and walking, and then you start hearing them using like language patterns that you use, and your sense of humor coming out. I mean, my 2 kids, right? Like Hollis tends to be a little more serious all the time. But then Cora, she's a freaking smartass like me. She just like goofs off and makes jokes and like is sarcastic and so like seeing sort of personality traits shift into your kids as they get older is just like even crazier to see.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's just a beginning of the ahas. But yeah, I would say the biggest one that really got me was seeing myself in line. Like I'm just seeing like a visual of just like this big family line.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know my family way back on my dad's side, like it was just an interesting, like there really isn't a lot of history, but either way I can at least see where I fit in.
Right.
And that's where I was like, whoa. And I don't know. Through all of this, it's like crazy. I don't know if it's like helping me process better or if it's slower or if it's worse, but I don't think it. I don't know.
I don't think it's necessary to really like analyze how it's impacting you. I think the lessons that you're pulling out of it are really, really powerful. Trying to analyze whether the lessons and things are good or bad is,
it just is.
It just is what it is. And, noticing this stuff, I think, is really important and really powerful. I think the more self-realizing you are about your family history, the more you realize like the traits that they held, the tendencies they had, even things like health issues that may have popped up, the more you could understand about the people that came before you. The more you can try to prevent the negatives in your life and perpetuate the positives in your life.
Yes, you're 100% right. I'm not laughing.
You obviously just had an aha moment about something I just said because you just like snapped and pointed.
It's actually the 4th thing, and I know for sure this is actually it. No, it's like the 6th thing, but I swear they're all important. But my original 4th item on that pillar was actually brain health.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I think I told you this. Because Alzheimer's and dementia runs in my family. Like I've had my 23andMe checked, and it's in my blood. It's in my DNA. And like, there's no doubt about it that I have the markers at least for it. Doesn't mean it's obviously guaranteed, but it's a higher likelihood for sure.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to speculate if my dad maybe had some onset stuff there, but he was in the age range, and he definitely was showing a lot of characteristics. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
So saying that, this actually, 100%, this is the actual thing I had written down on my notes at home is Alzheimer's or dementia, basically like good habits. Like my flip to that is have good habits. And what I mean by that is obviously you can't totally prevent, at least we don't know yet how to prevent that, but there are a crap ton of good habits that I can do. And with more wealth and with deliberateness and all this sleep and not being busy, being like not all anxious and all over the place, but actually like resting, getting the right nutrients, having the right routines.
Mushrooms
legitimately are like one of the best things.
I know it sounds like I'm joking, but I mean it dead seriously.
Yeah. Like Dr. Rhonda Patrick, I've been following her like crazy, more so now than ever. And like, she's big on brain health, and she goes deep on, dementia and things like that. So like sleep's huge, but also there's so many supplements and daily habits that I could be doing, we all could be doing. I mean, we're all going to be faced with some kind of dementia. Our brains break down, obviously, but some are just a lot more onset than others. And I know that's in my blood, and it scares the shit out of me. I remember like clicking the button on 23andMe because you have to, like, if you want to see these kind of things.
Yeah, it's like, are you sure? And then you press the button, and then it's like, are you really sure you want to know?
Yeah. It asks you twice, like, which is I'm happy they do. Yeah. But yeah, like, it's in there for me. And I remember telling you, I'm like, holy shit, like, I got to do something about this. But like now more than ever, like, yeah, that, again, just prefacing, I don't know, but never know. But maybe that was kind of creeping in there with my dad a little bit.
Yeah.
And, dude, I want to do anything in my power to make sure my brain health is on point.
Yeah.
Every single day. So flipping that coin from like dementia or the possibility of that to like have good habits, just daily good habits and treat my body right.
Yeah, it's a good thing you didn't play football in school.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because a lot of people are starting to regret that decision too. But that's a different topic for a different day.
That's very true.
No, just sort of giving a little more context to the mushroom comment. There's a great episode of the Joe Rogan podcast where he interviews a guy named Paul Stamets. We could probably link that up in the show notes. But basically, Paul has studied mushrooms, both psychedelic and non-psychedelic mushrooms, and actually found this specific stack of mushrooms. It's like lion's mane and some sort of type of psilocybin mushroom and niacin, right? Like that combination of things has so far been shown really promising signs to sort of not only prevent Alzheimer's and dementia, but actually to sort of reverse some of the markers. And like people have actually, like there's markers have happened that show that they're on track to be getting Alzheimer's, and markers like actually started going away kind of thing. I don't know all the science behind it, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Paul Stamets talks about this mushroom stack that helps prevent it. So if it's something you're curious about diving deeper in, go check out that episode.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. That makes me want to go buy that stack now.
Yeah,
I mean, wait, that's
one third of the stack is still not legal in the United States.
What are you talking about? I never.
We have no idea where to buy that kind of stuff at all.
Brain health.
Yeah, brain health. But the Paul Stamets episode with Joe Rogan is really, really good.
Yeah.
Real quick, last sort of thing I wanted to touch on. I know we're running a little long on this episode, but we have been working with Michael Kim. He's sort of helped us a lot with like mindset stuff. We'll probably get into in a future episode what he's helped us with from like a funnel conversion standpoint. But just staying in the vein of like mindset, what are some of the exercises that he's worked through with you? They obviously worked through with me, but I'm kind of asking you so we can keep the conversation going in a natural way. But what are some of the exercises he's had you work through, and what are some of the habits that you've changed as a result? And this will be like a dialogue because obviously I'm doing the same stuff.
Yeah. Well, he came in at a good time, I would say. So it was like right after my dad passed.
I had the call with him on the day that your dad did pass.
That's right.
Because we were supposed to have a podcast recording that day, and we canceled all of our recordings. But I still jumped on a call with Michael anyway, that's what led us down this path.
That's a very good point. So I'll just say like absolutely everything, and I think my awareness is heightened this month. Absolutely everything happens for a reason and at the perfect freaking time. And I have a list of examples I can go through, but I won't even do that right now. But just like being aware, I'm now like hyper aware.
Yeah.
And he is one of those things. Like the fact that he gave us this opportunity literally the day my dad passed, or really the day I found out.
Yeah.
And then, so Mike has been working with us on the mindset stuff.
Really what I wanted to talk about was like really quickly, sort of briefly, some of the exercises that we're working through.
Yeah.
And then also some of the routines that we've changed, just so listeners, they can go and test some of this stuff in their own lives and have some sort of actionable exercises that they can take away from this episode.
Hopefully Mike's cool with that. I think so. It's bettering everyone and getting his word out there too. So, so he's doing a lot. And like I said, he came in at the right time because it feels like therapy a little bit. And I've told him that. So I would say that's a big piece, is just talking stuff out and having a voice that, has seen a lot of stuff. He's, I think he's been a relationship coach. He's been a financial coach and like all these different things, conversion optimization, like you said.
Yeah, no, he's got a great perspective on everything internet marketing, mindset stuff, relationship advice and financial advice. He's literally operated in all of those spaces. So he brings this unique perspective. And this is why we ended up hiring him to consult with us. He brings this unique perspective of, he has operated in all these places. And so he sort of can, tie things together that we're not normally seeing. He's got like puzzle pieces that are, missing from the box that he's finally helping us find again. You know, like
that's what it feels like. So he's so off the bat, we had some calls, but really it was changing our relationship or our thought pattern with our money goals. So raising our money goals, and what we chose to do is pretty much 3x our monthly goal.
So the exercise on this one was to essentially go, okay, how much money do you want to make per month? where is all that money going to go? And then you and I both took the time to, I think I did on a spreadsheet, I think you did on a pen and paper, but we took the time to map out like, okay, I want this amount per month so that I can have this. I want this amount per month so I can have this. I want this amount per month so I can, pay down debt at this rate. I want this amount per month so I can, put this amount towards investments every month and this towards my IRA. And so we just got really, really granular of like, here's how much money I want per month, but not only here's how much I want it just because I want it, but here's what that money is going to flow to, because the struggle that a lot of people have is I want to make more money. I want to make 20 grand a month. Well, why do you want to make 20 grand a month? I don't know. It sounds like a good amount of money. It's a lot of money. Well, if you don't have the reason behind the goal, you're not going to make it to the freaking goal.
Well, and this goes back to what we said at the front of the episode is exactly this. And this is where I went on my realization path of like the 4 kind of pillars. Now there's 6. Is this, because I was good on the money goal. I figured all these things out. And it's actually really tough to put down what the things I want in addition to what I already have.
I know, it was really a tough exercise.
And see, that proved to me, I'm like, holy crap, I pretty much have everything I need. Actually, I do have everything I need. And I don't want anything. I mean, that's not true. I know there's a lot I do want, but at the same time, it wasn't apparent. Yeah. And without those things, like the pillars that now that I have those, I have a bigger drive to be like, oh, okay, now I can really like believe this money goal.
Yeah. Well, so for me, when it came to the whole thing, is I had this tendency to go, okay, I want to be drawing from our business $30,000 a month each or whatever, right? And then I would start breaking it down, and then I would look at the number of my breakdown and go, that's a lot. I really don't need that much. I could get by on 15 grand a month. If I'm just drawing 15 grand a month from the business, that's, that pays my bills and I have a little extra spending money. Like I'm good on that 15 grand a month. And then I would go back and I'd alter my numbers and like basically figure it so that I only needed less from the business. And sort of the lesson there for me was like, my relationship with money has always been a relationship of like, I'm going to just figure out what the bare minimum I can live off of is, and that's good enough for me. Yeah. So his big lesson for me is like, obviously think bigger and stop thinking in this, I don't know the right wording, but stop thinking from this perspective of, I don't need it, so it's not worth me making enough money to have it. Right? Yeah,
I got you. Yeah. Because you're right. And I think having a bigger vision, at least for me, like this has really fired me up. Because there's this, like in thinking of what am I going to do with this money, but also like what are these bigger life goals, or with a kid, and even if you don't have a kid, you don't need a kid to have this, but like I really want to do a bigger thing in the foster space as well. Like I want to create and I'll just say it like super briefly here, but it's basically like a big sister, little sister kind of thing for foster kids aging out of high school that want to do something in the entrepreneurship space, because like those kids are the ones that literally continue the cycle and typically get back, their kids will go into foster care, and then everything just keeps, it's just not good. So like I want to do that one day, and that's probably going to take some money and focus and time and resources and all that stuff, connections and people, like maybe some people listening here. If you're interested, reach out, because it's true, because that's what it hinge on. But all of that, like that drives me more than just, oh, what do I want to make to pay the bills and just make sure we're all fed? Like, because that's so like, for me at least, that doesn't light me up at all. Yeah. Like I need to have these like bigger plays that almost seem a little scary. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, the other thing that I got from Michael that, and to be honest, to this day, I don't know if he prefers to be called Mike or Michael. So I just call him Michael because that's what his emails say.
I'll balance out and say Mike.
There you go.
50-50.
There you go. So, the other big thing from Michael for me was my morning routine and like the morning, like sort of visualizations. Yeah. So if you get off to a really, really fantastic morning, it tends to go like that for the rest of the day, right? At least from my experience, the last couple of weeks, I've woke up, I think of the things I'm grateful for. I do a little bit of meditation. I sort of visualize what I want my my life to look like, what I want my house to look like, what I want my yard to look like, what I want my body to look like, how I want to feel. Like I go through this visualization exercise every morning, and by the time I leave my room and I've kind of gone through my routine, I'm just feeling like, fuck it, let's get after this day. I'm ready. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm happy about this day. And it's all because of the morning routine, just starting things off right. And I've had morning routines in the past. They weren't very specific. They were kind of more of the addictions, the habits that I just fell into. Like, this is just what I do every day. I don't know, just my routine, right? But now I'm very, very deliberate. From the moment I wake up, literally, I wake up to alarm now on purpose, and my alarm actually has a very positive message that I read first thing in the morning. So the very first thing that goes through my brain in the morning is be grateful, and today's going to be an amazing day, right? So like that's the very first thing that I wake up to. That is the message that shows up on my alarm when I wake up. So that starts off my day, and then I start visualizing like, what does my ideal life look like? And then I do this like this meditation routine where I just kind of silence my brain for a little bit, and then by the time I walk out of my room, I'm like hitting the ground running, and I'm also getting a much earlier start. Like I probably accomplish more by 10 a.m. than most people do in an 8-hour day. But a lot of it comes from the stuff we've worked with Michael on, and just kind of getting that foundation off to the right start first thing in the morning.
Yeah, that's good. And that's where I will be honest, I have fallen out of that a little bit.
Well, your routine, because there's a baby in the mix, your sort of schedule is a little different than mine.
It shifted fast, but before that, exactly what you just said. But the biggest thing I would say for me is all that stuff you said is exactly right. So that's me too. The whole grateful thing. So and this might be a little woo woo for some, but Esther Hicks is someone who I was introduced to a long time ago via YouTube videos, but like there are some meditations that I know you and I are listening to at night, and again I've fallen a little bit out of that, but at night, like basically programming our brains right before we go to sleep. And there's some money programming type. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube and in apps like
Headspace.
Insight Timer is the one I was thinking of, but Headspace is good for meditations. I'm thinking more of like subconscious or like things you can fall asleep to.
Gotcha.
With good things, like because your frontal cortex, prefrontal cortex is kind of shutting down at that phase where you're not like going to be like, oh well, I can't make that kind of money, or like I'm not that great and powerful, or whatever whatever these empowering things can say. So I've been listening to a lot of those. And I mentioned Esther Hicks. There's actually some really cool animated videos that I am like obsessed with right now, at least just to think about or listen to. But I love them because a lot of that stuff is exactly what has been helping me to get past my dad's stuff, but it's also with the business stuff and keeping me like, it's very weird. I haven't felt anxious in probably like over a month or two, even with my dad. Like before, it was very attached to things like money, business, and things like that out of my control mainly. And really, since going through this process, and even a little prior to, because I was already working on myself, I haven't been anxious at all.
Yeah.
Even in some really scary, crazy times. Even with our business right now, doing some crazy transformations too and big partnerships, I'm not anxious.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like, don't resist shit. Like, if it's here, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's been a big realization for me going through this entire process. And I mean, there's nitty gritty stuff, I guess, with working with Mike. We don't need to say it all. There's a lot, but like tracking our time, we're doing that as best as we can. And we're basically going to figure out the stuff that doesn't serve us in our bigger purpose, thinking like 80-20. And the fact that, we don't have to do everything. Figure out what is the 20% that's going to bring the 80% of results and more. And then obviously this translates not only into our lives, but in our business, and it should pan out very well. I think it's actually working really well already, and it's only been 5 weeks or so.
Yeah I mean, just for me, just like the sort of morning routine, just like the steps that I go through first thing in the morning have literally changed the game for me.
It's true. Yeah. So we didn't even get into some of the new stuff that's happening with the biz. I think you were kind of
we actually have another therapy session coming out on New Year's Day.
Cool. So we'll save that for then.
And that one it's gonna be me, you, and our operations manager Shannon, all kind of talking about the new stuff we're working on and our plans for 2020. So that episode actually drops New Year's Day. That'll be our next therapy session.
Cool. So let's save that stuff till then.
Yeah. Plus, there's sort of with a lot of the new business model, we've got like the map, the flow chart. Like we kind of have the vision of what we're gonna do, but there are slight nuances that kind of keep on tweaking day by day as we're trying to dial this thing in. So I really think by the time that episode comes out, we're gonna feel pretty freaking dialed in on this new system
for sure.
But very, very exciting stuff that's going to benefit you as the listener. More offerings, more availability, more speaking, more presentations from us, more getting
free
on
stuff
podcasts,
too.
more free stuff from us. Just a lot of cool shit that we're really excited to give you.
Yeah, and we're definitely we're partnering with some really interesting folks that will put us in new places that you'll see us in further. We won't tell any details quite yet.
Yeah,
but it's getting exciting, and all of this comes back to like sticking in here. I'll end on this point actually, because I think this is very relevant, and it's relevant to like what we've been talking about with Mike Kim. I mentioned this Esther Hicks thing, and like just these principles. My dad is. I think now, like this whole year from where you and I met, like we have attracted a lot of crazy opportunities. Crazy, I mean like amazing. Like from massive people, massive brands. And
it's literally shit that 4 years ago, you and I would be sitting around and this would not even be on our radar. Like we would be sitting there thinking like, these guys will never know who we are.
Yeah. Well, just the fact that even getting someone on our podcast, like these folks we've had on, in retrospect, it's mind blowing, and still is. It's funny because like it's not like we're numb to it now, but like I think we're just very comfortable with it.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't say even expecting it, but I would say that we just know we're in the right place, and it's coming to us because we set ourselves up in the right way. But the thing I think that has become more clear lately, is that we have honed in what we truly want as a business and as our lifestyle, and within like what Matt was saying with listing out the things that we're going to spend money on or invest in and all that, without having that kind of true north, more or less. Like we were attracting everything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like really our big thing. So if you're just in case you're wondering, if you want to send some stuff our way or if you want to talk, it's podcast, it's marketing in the podcast, it's monetizing podcasts, and mainly that.
Yeah, and a little touch of we help people with traffic stuff too.
Yes, yeah, there's some traffic, but it's all like wrapped up within there. But that's like the ball of stuff. It's affiliate marketing is great. But we're not like, that's not like the key thing. We're not out there teaching and speaking on stages purely on that. We have, obviously, but like now we're basically honing in this thing a little tighter, not super tight. And we're realizing literally since we've done this in the last like month, we're getting now flooded with very specific things by equally or even larger folks and companies.
No, it's true. Yeah, we there was a time where literally we'd get somebody coming to us saying, "Hey, can you build my funnel for me? Hey, can you drive traffic for me? Hey, do you guys do copywriting?" Like, people saw us as such generalists that they just brought everything to us and went, "Hey, can you run my company for us?" Right? We actually even had somebody come to us and say, "Hey, we've got an e-com business and we need somebody to help us run it." And they approached us as the potential people to run it for them. And all of these opportunities flowed to us, but there was no sort of like thread that sort of made them all make sense. Where when we decided, you know what, let's be the podcasting guys. Let's teach people our unique methods around podcasting that nobody else is talking about, nobody else is teaching, and really honed in on that. Yeah. Now, pretty much every opportunity that comes to our email is like, "Hey, we've got this opportunity for you. It involves podcasting. Hey, we've got this new opportunity for you. It involves you guys teaching podcasting." And like all the stuff that's flowing our way is sort of, it makes a lot more sense now. Everything feels very much more cohesive.
Yeah, and I feel like for us, it's been it's almost like a calming thing because it allows us to really leverage what we're really good at. And this all sounds probably so obvious, but it's crazy. Like things are happening. Like it's to a point where you have enough of attention, people that want to support you, people that want to work together, people listening to you like us now. it's putting it out there, and everyone has the opportunity to put out there the thing that they really want or they feel like they're best at. And like, put that on YouTube, put that on Instagram as your freaking signature thing. You know, like, update all that stuff so it doesn't look like you're doing something that's from like 5 years ago, which
thanks for the reminder. I have to do some of that shit on some
You
of mine.
really should, because I actually did do this on mine because I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, this is a disconnect from me.
It's those social media platforms that you kind of forget from time to time. And LinkedIn is becoming a bigger and bigger part of what we do lately. But for a long time, I just ignored LinkedIn. And now because it's becoming a bigger factor, I need to go update that shit.
And literally just consistency throughout everything, publicly, but also internally, and consistency. And it's like, you don't even need to be like changing. You don't need to be any louder, say more, do more ads, or do more podcasts. Like, just the fact that we're now confident. It's like, no, this is what we're doing. And being like very chill about it. It's like, no, this is it. Like, no, that thing's cool. I'm not going to probably do that though. I'll talk with you and help you out, but I'll probably just send you to someone else to help you. Maybe it's a broker thing, or maybe it's just like, cool, just go walk with them.
Well, it's crazy. In the last few months, we've been approached by not one, but 2 companies that are billion-dollar companies that want to talk to us about podcasting stuff. And we won't talk about who those companies are yet. A lot of this is still kind of hush-hush. One of the deals isn't even like really that set in stone yet, but we're in talks with them. But 2 companies that are in the billions of dollars in sales have approached us because they like what we're doing in the podcasting space. If that doesn't fucking say something, I don't know what does.
Exactly. And so I wanted to end on that point because I feel like that's a good, it's a good little cherry on top of this entire conversation. This
conversation was kind of like the month of October, a little bit of a roller coaster. You know?
I would say so. It started off not that great, but at the same time, flip that coin. It's great. It's all good.
It's all good.
And life goes on. There's a balance to everything.
I
swear to God, I believe it through and through now. You can always flip that coin, and there's a lot of lessons. So hopefully there's some good notes on this one too, even though it was kind of long and all over the place.
The yin and yang of life.
It's true, man.
For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Said Matt Wolf. I mean, no, that was probably someone else.
No, that was some sort of physicist, I'm sure.
Perfect. Sounds scientific.
It's probably like Einstein or something, but I don't know my famous physicists very well.
Cool. Well, thank you for sticking with us for so long. Those of you listening still.
Those of you that have made it an hour and a half in, we thank you. That means you love us as much as we love you.
Yeah, it's true. So I'm going to go now because my brain does feel fried and maybe go home and take a nap.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sounds good. That it's getting dark really early now, so it's screwing with my head too, like we were saying earlier.
This time change has been bizarre. We just need to All
right, so get the notes if you want. That would be great. You'll love them. hustleandflowchart.com/comp.
38470. Text the word comp.
Thank you so much, and reach out if we can help you with anything. We'll respond. Goodbye.
Hey, thanks for listening to that episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
You dang right you did.
Of course you enjoyed it. What's not to enjoy?
We weren't going to publish it unless you were going to enjoy this.
If we don't enjoy it, we don't publish it. Therefore, we only publish the stuff we know you're going to enjoy.
We listen and read the notes as well. So
very, very true.
2 days ago.
Well, you know what I want to do? I want to actually start reading some reviews of some of the people that listen to our podcast because we're getting some really cool reviews. And also I want to kind of incentivize people to leave more reviews because then we're going to read them for you.
Hey, man, this is our shout out section.
Yeah.
That's kind of what this is going to become.
For sure.
The outro shout out section. So yeah, let's do some reviews. And prior to that,
let's talk about some of the guys that have supported us.
Yeah. And there's a couple shout outs from our friends and some other folks that reached out to us. These two actually are our friends. They're pretty close friends of ours, and they support our show. So, if you want to get more of an exclusive shout out, reach out to us. We have a couple spots available occasionally, so it depends. But the first, our buddy of ours, actually Steve Olsher, he's in one of our masterminds. He runs a podcast called Beyond 8 Figures. And they're chatting with just amazing entrepreneurs who have either exited or they currently run a business that is above 10 million. And they basically grill. So they have 3 hosts over there. It's Steve Olsher, Mary Goulet, and Richie Ote. They're all buddies of ours as well, all in San Diego. And they basically grill them until they figure out their methodologies, the tactics and action steps that actually got them to accomplish that, which are what few companies would ever get to that point.
For sure. It's a great podcast. They cover a lot of ground. And, the whole thing is trying to uncover what goes into creating an 8-figure business so that other businesses could sort of reverse engineer the success. Yeah. So amazing podcast. That's Steve Olsher's Beyond 8 Figures podcast. Definitely go check it out on Apple Podcasts and everywhere where you listen to your favorite shows.
You're going to like it. It's very similar to this one with different approaches. So I think if you're a fan of this, you're going to love his show, Beyond 8 Figures.
And then our other supporter for this episode is our good buddy Casey Zeman's Easy Webinar.
Bam! And both these guys have actually been on our show too, Steve and Casey.
Yeah.
So if you like them, you can even check out an episode too.
Yeah. So check out easywebinar.com/hustle because Casey put together a 20% off deal for listeners of Hustle and Flowchart. So easywebinar.com/hustle. Now, Easy Webinar is kind of a webinar tool, but it has live webinars. It's got automated webinars. It's got kind of hybrid webinars. It's got all sorts of, social media functionality. It's got, it's pretty much like the only webinar platform you would ever need. It's got everything all in a single platform. A lot of the other platforms, you got to buy one product to go live and one product to go automated and one product if you want to, and this one is just, you get Easy Webinar, you're covered. You got it all. So if you want Easy Webinar, get it for 20% off. Go to easywebinar.com/hustle. And again, I just want to thank our partners and our supporters on this show, Casey and Steve. We love you guys. Okay, I'm going to read a review now.
Oh, okay, Matt. Go for it.
All right. So this review is titled Love the Dynamic, and it's 5 stars, and it comes from Phoebe Morochek.
Hey, Phoebe. She's a good buddy of ours.
We've hung out with her at New Media Summit, and we've hung out with her at, Podcast Movement? And
we've stayed in contact. I talked to her last week, actually. She sent me good vibes with personal stuff happening. So she's a good human, that Phoebe. And she also has her own podcast, which I think she just actually changed the name of. So just check out Phoebe, and you'll find her podcast. It's really good.
So I'm going to go ahead and read Phoebe's review. She says, love this show because it's real and actionable. Also got to meet Matt and Joe in real life just a few weeks after discovering their show, and they are great guys. A must listen for entrepreneurs looking to grow their business.
It's true.
So
she talks truth.
She proved it. See, everybody thought we were lying about actually meeting her, and then I read the review, and she mentioned in the review that she met us, and now everybody believes us.
See? Yes.
Yeah, so there, take that, you.
Yeah, you. Yeah, and we were going to try to read this one in Spanish just to change it up, and we plugged it into Google and sounded like total dipshit.
Some of the words I didn't actually know how to say, so I figured, you know what? Instead of butchering a language that I don't know that well, let's just read the review.
It's like one of those things. I thought we would actually be better because we used to know Spanish better. We just haven't used it in a while. Usually reading Spanish is not that difficult, but now it's very difficult. Phoebe, you're amazing. We love the dynamic of us as well, and also your podcast is amazing, and you're just a good human. So appreciate you too.
And for all of you listening, keep them reviews coming, and we'll keep them reviews reading.
Sure.
Was that grammar good?
The grammar was very good.
Okay, good. I do good grammar sometime.
It's funner when you do bad grammar.
Yeah, there's a whole Adam Ruins Everything about how like words that we say aren't words and grammar Nazis get upset about actually end up becoming words, and like how the English language is fluid, so grammar Nazis like really have no. Okay, anyway,
100%. It's all made up. Everything's
all
made up, people.
All right, thanks, Phoebe. Thank you, everybody listening. Keep them reviews coming. We love you.
See ya.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. Before taking the time to listen, we want to give you something a little bit special. Every single episode that we do, we actually have somebody on our team take notes. We basically have a Cliff's Notes version of every episode where you can go and find all of the tips and tactics that they laid out, all of the resources that they laid out, all the good stuff from this episode. We actually have a nice simple notes version that you can find on our website. So go to evergreenprofits.com, find this episode that you just listened to, and give us your email address and we'll send you the notes. Thanks for listening.
Go get it.
Wiki.